Hi, welcome to your Diamond Mentor Moment. This is Janine, your keynote speaker on intercultural creativity, prismatic leadership, and neurosomatic creativity. Excited to be here with you today. Excited to celebrate Thanksgiving, talk about what we're thankful for. And I wanted to highlight something very important as we continue our conversation on creative thinking, intercultural development, and preparing ourselves, our workforce, and of course, our students and children for this future of work. I wanted to highlight my sense of gratitude for my mother. This is my mom. Recently, she won an award for her city over the summer. She retired in 2019, the same year that I actually left the classroom as well. I say we both retired the same year, but I am doing this now, and she is actually retired after 30 years of being a teacher, 20 years being a high school biology teacher. And over the summer, she just said, you know what? I want to do a program. I just want to do a program for the local kids at the community center in the city that she lives in Southern California. And she did it. She got the curriculum together. She got all the material. She's really hands-on interactive. And the city normally gives out awards to coaches, like basketball coaches and the track coaches and the people who do a lot of the athletic events in the town. But they called her up the night before and said, you know what, we really wanted to honor you just for the dedication that you did during this summer program. And you pitched it, you brought everything in and you set everything up. And she came in the next day and she got honored with a whole city plaque or a certificate. And she went up there and she gave a small speech. And I was like, Mom, why didn't you tell me? I would have driven in to go see this, because she is always there at my events and when I'm getting honored. So to be there for her would have been amazing. But I'm doing this instead. And so I just wanted to celebrate this time of Thanksgiving with celebrating her. And also, of course, I'm an educator. Take some key points that she did in our childhood and show people how they manifested into many ways that her adult children are operating in their work, their social spheres, their other areas of life. So this is Gwendolyn Jefferson, an educator, biology educator, receiving an award in the city of Rialto, California. All right. My book is Seven Gems of Intercultural Creativity, and the diamond is my logo. I got this logo back in 2019 when I metaphorically wanted to use it as a symbol to show people we are all meant to shine bright. A lot of us have this hidden innate talent and gifts and abilities, and we just need to, buff it off and clean it up and allow ourselves to shine. Last week, or actually this month of November, Adam Grant came out with a wonderful book called Hidden Potential. For those of you who don't know him, he's a very famous organizational psychologist, and he has wonderful books. I have a few behind me, like Originals, and then another book called Think Again. I haven't read that one, but I even quote him in my TED Talk. I just want to talk about a point that he made in this book that is connected to a point I want to make with my mother's rearing abilities. We say we don't raise children, we rear children, but with my mother's key strategic events of raising her children. And so, first of all, I want to go over the scandal that happened, I believe, in 2017. It was called the Operation Varsity Blues, and now Netflix has a documentary about it, and you can go check it out. And basically, what happened was some very affluent parents were communicating with this person who had these inside tracks into these higher level top tier universities, and these parents were pretending to donate money to a nonprofit. They were actually sending money to him in order for him to pull strings to get their students into these high level universities. I believe one, I don't even know all the names of the universities, so I'm not going to list them off, but you can go certainly look them up. And those of you who have followed a lot of my talks, you've heard me bring this up a few times because I always use this as an example. Some of these parents had the children go, or the young adults, the adolescents, go take their tests, their SAT scores, their ACT tests with tutors next to them and just fed them the answers. So they were basically cheating on these tests. Some parents had, or the man who was orchestrating this had pictures doctored up of them part of the crew team or the lacrosse team, like random things, not random, but some of the smaller, not smaller, some of the less popular sports, let me put it that way. So not like the basketball and football and gymnast teams, but more like the sports where not everyone's watching intently of who is coming on, who's walking on, who's getting a scholarship to come on. And so the parents were just funding their children getting into these schools illegally. And so everyone's focused on these parents, especially a few of them were actresses and high profile parents. A lot of them were just like dentists and doctors and accountants. But what I wanted to bring up was that I called this child abuse. And why do I call this child abuse? Is because when we rob children from the process of taking a shot of it, doing your best, having a growth mindset, knowing that you have to practice that things to get better. Taking the SATs, I took it like twice or maybe even 3 times, and submitting your application, going for it. And if you get in, awesome. Your efforts got you there. And if you weren't selected or you didn't make the cut, you went back and you got to practice how to try again, how to work harder, how to reflect upon the experience and bring another strategy to that opportunity. What I want to communicate is when we rob kids from the ability of building a resilient mindset, from the ability of being in an area of discomfort, we rob them of their brain's ability. Yes, I have my brain today. We rob them of their brain's ability to build the skills to be able to perspective shift and to have emotional regulation and to continue to progress and grow even through upsets, even through trying times, even through disappointments and failures. Right. I often talk about the time when my son was on the monkey bars or some type of bars, and he was trying to swing and just learning how to really control his body up there. And he missed the bar and he almost fell, but he was hanging on with one hand. And I'm right there. And my instinct is to get up and save him. But something just told me to stop and just watch him. And I did. And he was just hanging on. Right. And of course, there's sand below him, so he wasn't going to get hurt or anything. He's just hanging on, and then he just starts just swinging his body, and then he swings over and grabs it. And I've never seen him do that before. So this was a first experience for him and his body. And I'm so glad I didn't run and save him and pick him up and everything. I stood back and I let him figure it out, and I let him communicate with his body in order to learn that his body can operate in that way. And then what was changed? His brain was changed, and now he has that logged in. So that's just a playground example, but it resonates throughout life, especially in your adolescence years and your formative years when your brain is still building these structures that it stands upon in adulthood. So important. And so the reason why I'm talking about this is because in the workforce, we have these 20, 30, 40, 50-year-olds in the workforce, but we need to understand, okay, well, what structures were built during your formative years? Were you able to engage in experiences and behavior that you had to have a growth mindset? You had to kind of pick yourself up, right? Whenever my son has an issue, we sing that song, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again, right? And he needs these experiences. And so if we as parents, caretakers, and teachers and mentors keep saving the kids from disappointment, from being uncomfortable, from failing from time to time, we're stealing their brain's ability to grow and to figure things out, to reshuffle information, and to realign their strategy for what's ever coming up. And they need that in youth in order to execute it well in adulthood. So, a few things that Adam Grant talks about in here. Number one, he says that they looked at the success of a lot of adults and they factored it back to their kindergarten years. Huge. And I hope more of his work and other professionals in the science and the neuroscience areas get to the school districts and get to the system so we can understand how important it is to support excuse me, the formative growth years, the 0 through 5 and then the 5 through 12, so important. And so the students and the adults who had kindergarten teachers that helped them with their resilience, helped them with their character building skills such as emotional regulation, creative thinking, appropriate risk taking, and being able to analyze their strategy and make amendments with their mistakes, or seeing the messages in their mistakes, right? The learning messages in their mistakes. The kids who had the kindergarten, who built that at that time were successful, more successful, and however you define that word, just more able to regulate well in their adulthood. So that's something to keep in mind. Adam Grant talks about something that us teachers know very well, the concept of scaffolding. Scaffolding, like a building, you have these like structures up, right? The building isn't made and could be unstable, but you have these solid structures up that are temporary. And so in scaffolding for education, we want to make sure our students are doing things that are not so easy they can do with their eyes closed, right? They've already myelinated those neurons, which myelination is something that coach your neurons to help the electricity go faster. So, you've ridden a bike for many years, those neurons are myelinated. But the first time you try to ride a bike, you're unstable because those neurons are trying to figure out how to connect well. And so for students who are not doing things that are super duper easy, but not doing things that are super duper duper hard, but they're in a scaffolding area where they're doing things that they're still kind of learning it, walking through it. They may need some assistance here and there. And as a teacher, the parent, the caregiver, we're putting up those scaffolds. So you can read about scaffolding in his book. And it's just a support where the support's there when they are going through it initially, and then the supports are taking away. So it's almost like taking away those training wheels, right? So they can ride that bike well. Other things that caretakers can do is create discomfort, right? Create discomfort that's tolerable and of course not traumatic, but growth happens in the discomfort. Trust me, being a relatively new global speaker now, I had to get out there on stage and work through some stuff. I had to do some trainings. In fact, I just read some feedback on a training I did 2 years ago, and I just got it like this year. And I know the growth is there, but it was cool to read the feedback of people watching me teach 2 years ago, when I was just getting started into the corporate training world. And so, but I said, I'm not going to wait till everything's perfect. Let's just go and do it. And you learn on the way. That was a big point in Adam Grant's book, which there's a diamond on the cover. My logo's a diamond, so it's meant to be. All right. Another thing, so it's creating scaffolding, creating discomfort, creating opportunities of discomfort where they're engaging in things that they're not super advanced in. Novel exposure. And these are all the things that my mother did too. Making sure our people, our children, our adolescents, our adults have the ability to be exposed to new things. When I work and coach with senior executives and people looking for just private coaching in their creative thinking, we actually plan out like, what have you done this month that you've never done before? Where have you gone this month that you've never gone to before? Who have you met this month besides just on LinkedIn, but really had a face-to-face connection with someone that you've never met before? Where are you bringing in these novel exposures? Because the older we get, the more we're able to get into a routine. And you stay in routine, you get into a rut. So by bringing novel experiences and novel exposure into your lived experience will help with this area, right? All right. The other thing that my mother did very well was modeling. Modeling, very key. I remember we were on free and reduced lunch, and I tell people we weren't dirt poor, but we were dusty, right? And so my mother had 4 kids. I'm a twin, so Janae and Janine, and then Jeanette 6 years behind us, and then Joseph is the youngest, and he's 12 years behind me. So it's Janae, Janine, Jeanette, Joseph, right? I know, tongue twister, but hey. And every summer she wanted to go somewhere, right? Well, I mean, one summer randomly she met some woman who was just jumping on the Amtrak train, and you could get off at any city that the train was going through the line of the route. And she just there was a program that Amtrak did back in the 80s, and my mother met this woman. She got the information and she said, "You know what? I'm going to do that too." And so because she was a teacher, she had to backtrack and save. If you needed $1,000 to take your family on this trip, how much money do I have to save throughout the school year? And we watched her do that, and she did it. Now, we were eating top ramen and doing like budget hotels on our trips that we were driving through the country. But I want to really express that her genius. My mother is a genius, and she's still with us. Celebrated her 70th birthday this year. Her genius of making sure her kids have these novel exposure experiences throughout the nation around people who look like us and didn't look like us. Very key. Very key. I was just listening to some research from Dr. Michael Platt out of the Wharton Neuroscience Initiative. He actually wrote the cover, or he gave me an endorsement on our brain book. And he talked about the experience of white rats and black rats. And he talked about how white rats that were raised only around other white rats, when they got to their adulthood, they only helped other white rats. And the same for the black rats. The ones who were going through their formative years experience around only other black rats, when they got into their adulthood, they only showed empathy and helped only other black rats. The rats that were raised around both white and black rats, as you know where I'm headed, they helped both types in their adulthood. So diversity is key, not just for the workforce, but for our 0 through 12 years, our school system. When children are raised around other types of kids, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different cultures, their brains are formulating that, hey, you're a part of my tribe. You may not look exactly like me, but I'm building my neural structures right now, and you're a part of that. And so when kids are only raised around people who look like them, and then we get them into the workforce around this global global diverse workforce, their brains need time now to structure that social expectation of what their tribe should look like. So that is the neuroscience way. So my mother built that in. She had us around different types of people from early on. She had us doing things, and we got to see her have a goal. Like, I want to get on this train, or I want to go see the Statue of Liberty, or she wanted to go to Canada. And one time we went to Mexico during the Mexican election, and that was interesting. And she would just have these big goals, but then she would backtrack and then make it happen. And so those of you who saw my Diamond Mentor moment a few weeks ago, I talked about the conative brain, right? Cognitive, affective, and conative brain. And your conation is your ability to get things done, right? There's some people who talk about, oh, I want to do this, and 20 years have passed and they've done nothing. And then there's people like, hey, I want to do this, and then it's done in like two weeks. Some people they get stuff done. But we watched her do it. We watched that mindset. And don't forget the work of Dr. Carol Dweck with the growth mindset and fixed mindset. She talked about how the mindset of the person in charge, the parent, the teacher, the leader, it has one of the highest influences of the success of the child or the team member. So my mother's mindset and her conative abilities had a huge impact on her children, because we watched her get stuff done. So If my brother and I want to do something, we just get it done, right? That's just how we were raised. We're in our adulthood, we met other people and we realized that's not the norm. Not everyone has a high co-native ability. So Adam Grant talks about all these different areas that I watched my own mother walk out day to day. And so the lastly is taking risk, being able to take calculated risks, being able to try something. Those of you who know me personally, you know I've tried a lot of stuff. Some of it's worked, some of it ended up okay, and some of it just had to go back to the drawing board. And so that is really what I wanted to talk about during this week of Thanksgiving, during this week of us just contributing, really just back into the narrative, and us being thankful for all the different contributors and just national groups and ethnic groups and just different demographics who are sharing their story and who are adding to the fabric of this nation. This has been your Diamond Mentor moment. And we last end on the book, My Beautiful Brain, written by Sean and Janine and Shane Letford. Shane helped with the illustrations. We were on ABC in Portland, and just able to share this really important work. And I just got the idea for our next book about the brain, something called The Brain Symphony, and how the brain is like an orchestra and how all of our brain parts get to play together to give wonderful, wonderful music. So I'm excited to dive into that, and hopefully we can get that published by 2025. Wonderful. Thank you for joining me. As I know it was a long one today, but I just wanted to say thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, and a big thank you to my mother, who is the true giver of intercultural creativity, Gwendolyn Jefferson. Happy Thanksgiving, and have a great, great